Welcome to this episode of Beauty Business Matters. I'm Susan Routledge, your host, and today I am with the awesome Vicky Ross. And Vicky, I've known for many years, and it's quite hard to sum up what she does. She has so many facets to her, but it's all around how you think, why you do things the way you do, and also how you handle relationships around and everyone that you're dealing with. So today we are going to be covering how to hack your brain for success. And this is going to be so fascinating because we, as I say, are going to walk through so many different areas, and you're going to come away with some actionable steps at the end too. I am going to welcome you, Vicky, and thank you so much for joining us. But on top of that, can you first of all please tell us a little bit about you? Because I always struggle to explain about you because you've got so many facets, and I just love that all you do.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you for, it's brilliant to be here. And yes, I do have a lot of facets because, I'm a very, very curious person. So when I started in the personal development field, it was for me. I was my client. And as I went down, I started then helping friends of friends and friends of friends of friends. And, it kind of happened while I carried on with my proper sort of real job type of thing and all that. But what I came across time and time again is that I would learn a technique and I think, oh, this is brilliant. And I've done it on a few people and it works. And then it didn't. And then I'd be going like, why is that not working? So then I would try and figure out, well, what would work? And then does that mean that this technique is not good? And over time, what I've come to know is that we are so complex and so multidimensional. And instead of trying to go, this is my technique, this is the way I work, and therefore fit into my 6-month program because my box looks like this, I've always been, talk to me. Let me hear, because I'm really good at understanding the language patterns. Let me hear what is actually going on with you and where do I start? Where's the place that you are bringing me in as your coach, as your therapist, as your trainer to help you change? So the big theme, the big umbrella theme has always been transformation. It's always been about helping people create the life that they want, to live on their terms. That is it.
So when we say in techniques, what kind of techniques do you use, Vicky? I know there's so many, but just some of the most popular ones maybe.
So I use a hell of a lot from NLP. I did assist Dr. Richard Bandler, one of the co-creators of NLP, and Paul McKenna for 8 years. So I've trained NLP, I've delivered NLP, I've done business practitioners, I've done a lot of business type of NLP. I'm also an instructor of hypnotherapy, so I teach people to become hypnotherapists. So of course I use hypnotherapy, I use persuasion, I use the metaphors, and of course I love meditations for many, many reasons. I do Akashic records, which is something more spiritual. And then I came up with a modality because I was getting frustrated with people that know some of this stuff. And then it was like, oh, the ego is getting a little bit too smart. So it understands some of the personal development aspects, concepts, techniques. So then it will actually protect and sabotage the development and the being able to get deep into the source of beliefs, the source of paradigms, to be able to make the change. So I came up with my own technique to be able to bypass the resistance from the conscious mind. What else I do? I'm a coach. I'm a trainer. I'm a speaker. I do TFT. I do anything. Like I said, there isn't one way.
Yeah, and this is it. This is what I love because you have experts in one area, but yours is just so multifaceted. And over the years, watching you work and just the techniques that you use, it just fascinates me. I love personal development and I love the power of you, the belief that you can have. And I know, the main topic we're going to cover today is a session that you did a while ago with my members in Beauty Directors Club on how to hack your brain for success, which is like, when you said to me about this topic, I really, really didn't sort of envisage how involved it was. And, you know, I had so many messages afterwards saying, oh my God, that was so, so good. And I just thought, right, yes, let's cover this. And, you know, because it's fascinating. So can you tell us how you hack your brain for success then, please, Vicky?
Well, yeah. And the big question is, like, number one, why would I hack my brain? And number two, what is it that hacking my brain will give me that I don't already have? So with every single person, I look at them, they're here. And most people will not be happy, 100% happy, or maybe they're not happy in some aspects of their lives, but they're not changing. And when I say to them, you know, I've even written a little book, you know, how are you getting on? They go, oh, I'm getting there. And I'm like, so where's there? And they go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So people mainly stay stuck and stay in the blame game and all that because they don't know how to, what I would call, hack your brain. And the precursor to change, in other words, for change to happen, you have to know what it is that is happened, how it happened, so that you know how the system works to be able to then go and change the system, which is why I call it a hack.
Yeah.
You know, so you can't go into your laptop or your computer and change the programs if you don't know the programming of the laptop. You can't go and change the program on anything if you don't know how to do coding. The same thing applies to us. We've got a fantastic machine here. You know, yes, I know it's got emotions and it's sentient, but it's still a machine nevertheless. And if we don't understand what happens physically, this is not the woo-woo stuff, it's just physics, it's science. If you don't even know at a very basic general level what's going on, how do you then go about and create change? There's no understanding.
I find, and I know we were talking about this earlier, I speak to so many directors of salon businesses. And the thing is that because I think the past is something that you can identify with, I always like when I'm speaking to anyone, I like say, so what do you want? What's your future? You know, what do you want to achieve?
Yeah.
And quite happily tell me what they don't want,
yeah,
and go back over, but they find it very difficult going forwards, and they'll still revert back to the past all the time. But when getting them to move forwards, it's then trying to get someone to be specific. And even I struggle with that because it's like, I know when we're talking, you're always like going, well, what does that look like? And what does that look like? And it's, you know, it's being that specific, and you do need to get that specific to make change and to well, obviously I believe that, you know, you can manifest your future, and I know you do too. But the thing is that it if you put out wishy-washy, you get wishy-washy back. That's
absolutely,
the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And then people get frustrated. It's not working for me.
Yeah.
Or I get people that say, I understand that this works, but it doesn't work for me. And I'm thinking, and again, I look at them and I go, why is that? Because you're special?
But that's a belief, isn't it, as well?
Of course it is. So you know, we can get to the point where going, well, it is a belief and it is a limiting belief. And, you know, a lot of people sort of stop there. And I go, well, it isn't just about beliefs. And I'll talk about what happens with the brain in a minute. But it's also paradigms. And a lot of people don't go, oh, well, what's a paradigm? You know, isn't paradigms and beliefs the same? And I'm like, no. And they're equally evil and good. You know, they're very, very important. So a paradigm.
I was just going to say, what is a paradigm?
So a paradigm, it comes from a Greek word. So, of course, as you know, I'm Greek. And so the word is paradigma. And paradigma, if you translate it in simple terms back to English, is not a paradigm, it's actually an example. So when you are 2 years old and you're sitting there, or 3 years old, and you don't have experience, you don't have reference, so therefore you cannot see something and give it a meaning or a judgment because you don't know what it is. So there you are, sitting on a cushion, playing with your blocks, and let's just say your parents start fighting. There's nothing inside of you that goes, oh, this is upsetting. Because you don't have the reference. So you're looking at it like, I noticed when my kids were babies, my daughter was next to another baby, and this baby was screaming blue murder, and she was looking at her block, and then she went,
just looked to one side.
Yeah, so she looked at the baby like, you're doing something different, and then carried on doing her stuff. And it's the same thing. But when we keep witnessing, observing this example, we don't know it's an example. Nobody's going, oh, take notice here, because this is how relationships work. Mommy and daddy fight all the time. Nobody says it. You just keep observing it. So somewhere in your deep unconscious mind, these paradigms get installed. You get paradigms about how, as a man or as a woman, you interact with other people. Are you submissive? Are you confident? Are you the bully? Are you the aggressor? Are you, sort of the wallflower? Whatever it is, you observe that, and therefore you start to do that. I remember teaching year fives a program that I did that's called It's All About Me. So we were teaching them about all the stuff in brain juice. And when I said, how should we feel about exams? And one little boy went, scared. And I said, oh, okay. How do you know you need to be scared for an exam? And he goes, because my mommy always gets scared before her exams. Yeah. So paradigms are a way that when we are at that really, really young age and we don't have reference, we don't have experience, we haven't had that moment where we're going, does that work for me? No, I think I need to let that go. We don't have that. And what happens because of the way our brain is, which we'll talk about now, is we are on that auto mode, and therefore we are just in there. So fast forward and you go into your 20s and you meet this incredible person that's really respectful and wonderful and lovely and this and that, and you're like, oh my God, this is so boring. It's just, no, I can't deal with this. I can't deal, out. This is just not my relationship. But let the dysfunctional person come in, let the aggressor come in, the abuser come in. I don't like it, but I know how to deal with it. I know how to behave. I've been watching for years. I have the example of how to be in that moment. So therefore I know how to survive and cope.
Yeah, totally.
And the same thing goes with the way that we approach work, or the way that we approach our ambitions, the way that we'll approach conflict with personal, all of that.
Yeah, and I think that as well, because, people say that it's living up to someone else's expectations, but I think as well, it's like it's ingrained in you before that kind of thing.
And again, going back to what you were saying earlier about, what is it that you do? Some of the stuff that I feel that stops people is their belief system. Some of it is their paradigms. Some of it is their environment, the nature, nurture kind of thing. It's never one thing. It's always so multi-level and complex and all that, which is why when I saturated one way and still found this wasn't giving results, I had to look for the other way. But again, I always found that I would always be explaining to people exactly why, which is why I wrote my book of I Understand Me, because people don't understand themselves. They don't know what drives their insecurities, what drives their emotions, which creates decisions. Why do I have these things? Why do I have these beliefs? They don't know, and even if they do know, it comes from my mom or my dad or my teacher or my whatever, they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, but as well, I love Wayne Dyer. It was one of the people I listen to a lot. And I can always remember him saying, like, the thing is that, we're in a different body every day.
Yeah.
Because, every your body's changing all the time. You start off in this baby body, and then you end up being a 21-year-old body, and then and your body's changed. But at the same time, every cell in your body's changing, and the thing is that you can change how you think.
Because even if you're not trying, from the day that you're born, you change emotionally. So things that you didn't get emotional about, now you do. Things that you did get emotional about, now you don't. You change mentally. So things that you believed, like at some point, a lot of little ones believed in Santa, if you were in that kind of environment. And now you don't, and you can't go back. You can't go back and go, oh, I'm going to forget that it's all not real, and I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
You can't go back, So, and that is something good to know, because at the end of the day, one of the things that Dr. Richard Bandler would always say is that if you weren't born with it, it means you've learned it. And that's great, because if you learn something, you can unlearn it and learn something different.
Yes.
You're not stuck with this for life.
I was fascinated that when you walked through sort of how your brain develops as well, and like why someone goes through the terrible twos when you're younger, and then when you as it develops, and that was fascinating. And if we can walk through that, I think that would be so helpful, because it just brings it all together and just makes total sense.
And not only it makes total sense, but you start to understand why the belief system is so difficult to change, or why the paradigms are so difficult to change, or all of that kind of stuff. It helps you understand. But now that you know this, you can work with it. So when you're born, your first 1 to 2 years is got your biggest physical growth. I mean, babies are born and they almost double physically. They never do that again in their lives. Did you know that? If you think about
when you think about it, yes, it's true.
So you don't do that. At the same token, for the first 2 years of your life, because you've got so much, we are so useless and helpless when we are born as human beings, human babies. If you look at all the other babies in nature, most of them can actually stand up, they can start walking, all of that kind of stuff. We can't do anything. We are so useless. So we have to, in that time, learn the most that we need to learn. So it seems like, no, but you don't. But actually you do. Because you learn to sit, you learn to walk, you learn to talk, you learn to eat, you learn to dress, you learn a lot of things in those first 2 years of your life. So you can't have the luxury of, oh, I don't know if that is right, or I don't know if I like this. You have to be 100% suggestible. So your brain waves are in what we call delta frequency. They're in delta waves. Now, from a hypnotherapy point of view, if I put somebody in delta brain waves, they're in deep trance. They're like drooling out, leaving wet spots on their shirts. So if you think of a baby and a toddler that is in the delta brainwaves, they're 100% connected with their moms, or their primary caregiver, and they just absorb everything. And this is why I've got a photograph of my daughter doing that, where she's sitting on the grass and she picks this blade of grass and she's fascinated. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So there's so much learning that goes on. We just take it for granted. We don't even look at the grass. It's annoying because it grows and we have to cut it. Whereas I could see the fascination in that moment. So there's no resistance. And then the brainwave changes around about the age of 2, and it goes into theta, which is why suddenly kids have got a little bit of a no. Come here. No, give mommy a kiss. No, give me that. No, you have this like, no, yes. And you get that sort of personality starting to develop. And that goes until about the age of 8.
And that's where they want to be touching things, picking things up into everything.
so you're still unconscious at this stage. But it's your level of consciousness is rising. So therefore you're starting to develop the character and the personality that is there. But it's still very, very unconscious. And theta is also, it's actually the most ideal kind of state to put somebody in hypnotherapy because of the highly suggestive. So this is the age, if you think about, because now they're starting to experiment, and it's just fascination and curiosity. It's exploring into the world. And now mommy goes, no, that's a bad boy. That's a naughty girl. Go sit on the stairs. All of that kind of stuff. Kids don't have the reference or the experience to go, I wasn't being naughty. I was just being curious. I'll never forget my daughter. Sorry, it makes me laugh. I had this beautiful phone with a fax machine and everything back in the
faxes.
One of these big things. And I get into my office and she's on her haunches with a huge big permanent marker, and I'm going, Gabrielle, what are you doing? And she goes, I'm making picture. So I look at her and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see the buttons. It was all black.
She coloured it all in for you.
So I said, where else have you made picture? And she goes, come, that little hand. And she goes and she pulls the curtains and pulls the coats behind the coat stand. It was just pictures behind everything all over my house with a permanent marker. Now, I could have gone, oh, that is such a naughty girl. And she could have felt this. She was so excited. If you saw her face, it was just delight. And I could have gone, oh, that's naughty, Gabrielle, and all that kind of stuff. And her experience, where she doesn't have the reference, would have been, I cannot express myself. I cannot do these kind of things because this is the consequence. They don't forget the emotional, emotional pain. If you look at all emotions, it's a bell curve, and it starts with nothing. It goes to the top and then it fades down. But whatever happens on that top can be very significant, that it locks the emotions with the experience. So therefore, every time I have this experience, I feel this emotion and they get locked in. So I could have done that to her. But I knew that she was just being curious.
Yeah.
And then I just said, you are so good. Such nice pictures. What can you do? I let her, off my guard. It's my fault, really. If anybody's going to sit on the naughty step. Right, so that happens up until the age of 8. So this is the age where they absorb, and what we say and how we are, because paradigms, they're watching and they're, being told, and they're being told and they're listening.
Yes.
To what's going on. And sometimes they will even hear parents in the background while they're playing. When we think they're not paying attention, they're still listening and they're still taking it in. Parents, I always say, and I say this with great love to everybody, nobody survives childhood. With the best intentions on parents, with all the greatest love, we get it wrong. Parents get it wrong, and it's part of life, and it's part of the push of independence and adulthood. So now we get to 8, and it changes again, and this is where you see, I've heard parents say, oh my goodness, my kid's already a teenager, kind of thing, and they're only 10, or they're only 9 years old, and that's because they're in alpha, and alpha is almost at the conscious level. It's a very creative stage. It's a very sort of dream stage, rather than the theta, which is more calm and more sort of, okay, give me the suggestion, tell me what to do. Theta's like, oh, actually, this is where we dream. This is where we create that beautiful future that we want. It's always in alpha. So if I bring people too far down in the trance, they might be going, yeah, it would be a great idea to visualize my future, but I'm so comfortable and relaxed, I can't be asked to do it right now, type of thing. So between 8 and 12 is we've got alpha. And then at around about 12, the brain wave of beta or beta gets developed. And this is where conscious and unconscious separates. This is where it all happens. And this is why teenagers can be so difficult to parents, because parents have had this very nice compliant child learning by my rules. These are my rules. This is how it works. This is what respect is. This is what that is, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly the kid is like, why?
Yeah.
Why must I do that? And for who? And who said? And, they have this whole thing. The peers are more, parents become super uncool when you're a teenager, because everybody else's parents are better and your group knows better and you know nothing and you don't understand. So what happens around about the age of 12 is when you get your beta, you've got low beta, you've got medium beta, and you've got a high beta. They're all necessary because they all some level of stress. Now, in stress, we've got eustress, which is positive. So it's a kind of stress if you are creating a presentation and you've had lots of other work and it's a bit last minute, .com type of thing, and then you do it and you've got that stress, you do it. But once it's done, it's like, whew, it's over. You're no longer anxious. There's nothing. Whereas distress, which is the negative stress, it's ongoing. Once one thing passes, I always say to people, stress is an emotion of the future. So I said, so where's this thing? If you could spatially, where's this stress? They would go here. So I said, if it's so important when you get here and you're running this high beta and you get here, why do you not pay attention to it in this moment, be here? Because now you're going there.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And I always think as well, and I always say to everyone, stress, worry, it's wasted energy. It doesn't have an impact on the solution. You just need to think of the solution and then act towards the solution. But just sitting in a state of worry and stress. And I think, that we can all identify with that, although I try not to get stressed about everything.
Well, the thing is, what if you look at what actually happens to your body, especially when you're running at high beta, you are burning out your body and you are overusing cortisol, adrenalines. So when you start to look at the physiology of the body, so your body's also got the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's almost like saying, hey, can you come and stamp out this fire? And they're going, well, that would be my job, but this is happening here, that's not working, so I'm going to quickly go and do that, and then I'll come back and do this. And then that part of your body never comes back. So the problems inside your body pile up, and it's like a barrel that overflows. And then suddenly people are faced with crisis. They're faced with disease. They're faced with all sorts of, and it's so interesting. It's so deep, this paradigm thing, that we live, we feel, we behave emotionally, mentally, like our caregivers, even to the point of how we eat. I've seen people, like, I've grown up with a worldwide cuisine, Greek cuisine massively. So I like things like salad and lentils and beans and legumes and all other kind of stuff. I just like, wow, this is great food. And there's a friend of mine that's like, oh, no, too much color on my plate. She eats no vegetables. Her brain is like, how do you eat that? And so I can't understand, she can't understand that kind of thing, because of course this is our world. But I find it so interesting that your mother will have a hip problem, and then roughly at her age, when she got the hip problem, you start having the hip problem. We are that programmed.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, when you mentioned before about disease, which is dis-ease, isn't it?
Yeah, your body's out of ease.
I see this a lot where someone is working and just not given time for themselves. And I always think, I see it all the time where there'll be like the signs where all of a sudden they're getting constant colds, not well, different things. And that's your body trying to tell you to like stop. And then if they don't listen, I've seen it go to a further magnitude from that, because I think you have got to listen to your body as well. You've got to listen to the signs, and at the end of the day, I always like say, you're not your business. It just has to be your profitable, lucrative friend on that side. And you just got to look after yourself.
And the thing is, the question is like, why am I doing this? Number one, I've learned to do it. But I haven't. Yes, you have. You've observed somebody in your life. You've learned, because if you didn't know how to do this, of overworking, burning yourself out and not taking care of yourself, then how would you know to do it? So the fact that you are doing it, it's something that you have learned.
Yeah.
The second thing is, what is the belief system that you've got, never mind the paradigms, about yourself and work? What is your idea about how I should work? So you might have, or that person might have, a belief that you've got to work really, really hard to be successful. So if you're doing something that is like, hey, 4 hours a week and I'm like cruising, you can't be successful in that, because your paradigm and your belief system, your programming is saying, no, you got to work hard. You've got to suffer. Look how he suffered. So if he suffered, that is suffering. There's your example of suffering. I had to travel, whatever.
And again, I think that comes a lot from watching parents, watching other people.
Who else would have told you that?
From the past, totally.
And teachers telling you, your whole 12 years of school, you've got to work hard and get good grades so that you can go to college, you can go to uni to get a good job. Otherwise, you're going to be... I remember in South Africa, they would say, you'll be selling sweets at the OK Bazaar. It was like, you had no qualification job. But coming back to your brainwaves, if we start to understand that, at a time in our lives where we actually had no choice, instead of being upset, because a lot of people get very, very angry with their parents, like, why did my parents did this? Why did they behave this way? And they go into what I would call the blame game. When you're in the blame game, and therefore it's not my fault. It's not my fault, my parents. It's not my fault, the economy. It's not my fault. It's not my fault, my staff. It's not my fault, the clients. It's not my fault, the digging outside my salon. All that kind of stuff. You go into the blame game again as something that you've learned. But being in the blame game means I have just given my power to change somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because it's only when I've got it. And again, it's something that you learn. So instead of going into that, is going, okay, my parents did the best they did, good or bad. I learned this because I was in those brainwaves.
Yeah.
My frontal cortex, which is my executive part of my brain. This is the part of my brain that makes decisions and rational thinking. By the way, this is why teenagers don't make rational decisions. It takes until the age of 25. They're even saying, for this part of your brain to be fully developed.
See, that is fascinating, though. So this state of brainwaves that you're talking about is from the age of 12 up to sometimes
this
into
is where you
the
get
20s.
Conscious thinking. Yeah.
See, because this is as well where we're often employing people who have come through college and they're still in that kind of thing and are thinking totally different to how...
If you think about it, that from roughly the age of 12 is where you start to have conscious thinking. Okay, so up until the age of 12, you were unconscious because the brainwaves are like that. Necessary, you had to learn how to be a human being. So now they are learning to be conscious without being conscious about it.
Yeah, yes.
So this is what I say a lot in class. I said, as if you look at the animal species, the animal kingdom, what separates us from, say, chickens and dogs and all of that is the size of our frontal lobe in comparison to the rest of our brain. So the frontal lobe is about, say, 49%. There's different sort of numbers. Whereas if you look at a chicken, for instance, it's 3%. So this is why chicken, if you put food and then you put a piece of glass, it will pick on the glass because it can't think, because of the size of its frontal lobe to the brain, that if I just walk around the corner from the glass, I can get the food. A dog can do it. A monkey better. Humans better. So what does it say about us? That as humans, we can think past survival.
Okay, yeah.
Problem, in school, in life, we're not taught to think about our thinking. So we now enter conscious mind, which we need to, because this is where we transition from child to adult. This is why with teenagers, suddenly they're questioning who they are. And do they want to believe what their parents believe? And do they want to act like their parents act? Like their parents might be going, you need to go and work. And they're like, why? I'm a child. Somebody else will go, you can't go and work. You've got to study. But why? I want to go work. I want to be independent. So they will question so much because this conscious mind is kicking in. But nobody's going, that's fine. We've given you all these beliefs and paradigms. This is the transition phase for you to start questioning whether you want to hold on to these or get rid of them, or hold on to some, get rid of the others. Who's doing this in school? Who's doing this at home?
Yeah.
Parents get offended when something that they believe, the kids are going, I reject that.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, because obviously, going back to the business side, we're dealing with clients who are dealing with their children, dealing with it. So it's really fascinating it's not only sort of in the workplace, it's actually, everyone has got different examples of this going on in their life.
And even the adult that is in their 40s, the business owner that's got a team, there's parts of their unconscious, deep unconscious, like the parts where people are going, I don't know why I keep doing this. They'll say this to me. I keep doing this. Before I'm aware of it, I've already done something, whether it's said something or felt something or reacted or, not reacted, whatever. There's so much still unconscious. And it's like, why do I do this? And I said, well, you're getting to see how your child is learning, how we see how little kids mimic their parents. And it's so funny. And then part of that mimic might be the insecurity or the lack of self-belief or the lack of confidence or the low self-esteem. And now we're 40 and we're running a business and I don't feel so comfortable about telling my staff to do something. Or part of my paradigms or my beliefs is to be an aggressor. If somebody, I have told you, how many times must I tell? And suddenly your way of dealing with your staff might be aggression. All sorts of things. It all comes back from those years when your brainwaves were moving from delta to theta to alpha to beta. And the big question is to also ask yourself is how much of your day. I was speaking to one of my clients and she said to me, I've been having the weirdest dreams and I'm waking up at 3 a.m. and I'm anxious. And I said, that is because you're running on high beta because of your stress. And even though during the day you're going, I'm not going to stress, I'm not going to stress, I'm not going to stress. She's not doing anything else yet. And when she starts to wake up in the middle of the night, suddenly the brain's going, okay, you don't let me deal with my stress. I'm going to do it now. And they wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're sitting on high stress. So the more... the next layer to all of this is that the emotions that all of this creates, we become addicted to them.
That's fascinating.
So a huge part of what you're dealing with when you are working with people's belief systems and paradigms is, yes, have an understanding that this happened. Yes, now you know why you have to change and how to change and be guided and be supported and all that. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing that you're dealing with is addiction. And this addiction in your body that is from your emotions is huge.
Yeah, and you see that. Some people are addicted to they'll cause drama,
drama queens.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
we call them drama queens. And I remember somebody in South Africa, when there was nothing happening, suddenly she would stir things up again. And we would look at her and go, oh, why? Why are you doing that? But she couldn't help herself.
And is that because it creates attention, and it's that's the thing where someone's getting attention, and has that come from when they've been younger, or?
Yeah, so maybe they learned that when they are in sort of strife, they get more attention. So therefore, that's what they'll use it. But it could even be, like we will be friends with people that will feed our addiction to a lack of self-worth. Because we'll talk together about, how difficult life is, and nobody,
some people love being a victim, don't they?
Yeah, I'm going to talk to my friend that is going to reinforce that part of my addiction, so that my body can go, they got the fix, we're good. Can you now think about something angry, please? Because we haven't had the anger stuff coming down, because the hypothalamus will create from thought. Will create the chemical that goes into your body, gives information to all your cells and all your organs on how to behave.
Yeah.
Because I find it interesting. People say, no, but I didn't have a thought. It was a feeling. I just felt this. And usually, because I do a lot of speaking, I said, so this is how that looks like. So if this is true, if your body could just have a feeling that's not from a thought, I said, you'd be walking down the street and suddenly you go, and everybody they do this and they start laughing. And then somebody will go, why did you do that? Oh, I don't know. My body just did it. That's how insane it is to go, I wasn't having a thought. It was just a feeling. Yeah. But it's always.
So at what point does your brain, I know your brain's ever evolving and ever sort of developing, but obviously you've gone through the teenage up to 25. What happens then?
Well, then it's kind of stable, but they used to believe that your brain doesn't change. And thank goodness for science. we now know about neuroplasticity, which means that your brain's quite plastic. And as long as you work it, it works. And it can change. And it can, they now can see under the microscope where thoughts, what do thoughts look like in the brain, the neuropeptides and the tendrils, where you see thought patterns of this and thought patterns of this, and they grow together and they connect. And this is why we have I'm sure you've heard the saying of thoughts that fire together, wire together.
Yeah.
So the more you think about similar things and the more things have got an association, the more they create strong networks. The less that you think about something, those networks break.
Because there's so many thoughts going on in your head at any one time. And it's whether you put it onto negative thoughts, positive thoughts.
And we also, we don't pay attention to all of the thoughts. And I find it so interesting how people have claimed the thought as being my thought. And I'm like, it's just a thought. For whatever reason, right now, you've given it importance. You've come, let's deal with you. Make the chemicals, come on. And it could be that, your body's become the master, your body's become the ruler. So your body's going, I haven't had any misery today. I haven't had any sadness. I haven't had any insecurity. Can you just find that thought that is about insecurity? It's like, oh, there we go. Come. Oh, yes, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I'm miserable. I don't care. I'm good. Because the body doesn't have a way of knowing right and wrong, good or bad. It's neutral.
Is this to do with endorphins in your body as well? And things?
Well, those are the chemicals,
Yeah.
Endorphins, dopamines,
Yeah,
serotonins. There's loads. Every emotion has its own cocktail kind of thing. So when we make the decision to make change without understanding what's going on, you often get this thing like, oh, this is too hard. Oh, I've got to do this first. I'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or, within a very short space of time, we go unconscious again, and then we forgot that we were supposed to be changing.
When you hear all of this, though, it's a miracle that, like, people
We function.
but on top of that as well, relationships. It's amazing that someone can meet quite young and that they'll still grow together.
Yeah.
But you can also see how people end up on totally different paths.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I think as well, sometimes the more clarity you get, and I see this happen a lot, that it's sort of, the more clarity someone gets on where they want to go, what they want to do, it's a different path to, and it sometimes can like break up relationships and things. But I think, it's, and I think in the past, possibly someone suppressed what they want to do, just to stay in that comfort zone kind of thing.
Saying yes instead of saying no. And, at the end of the day, I heard this when I first started with the NLP world, the personal development world, because somebody said that 95 to 97% of people are unconscious and live a reactive life. And I went, what? So 3 to 5%? 3 to 5% of the world is conscious living and living proactive. I mean, and it's true.
Yeah, but
I didn't believe it. But it's true.
Unless you're fascinated by this kind of thing, most people don't ever get to know about any of this. They just think, oh, this is just happening.
And I need another handbag. Or I need another car. Or I need a divorce.
And it's a fix. Yeah. It's a fix and it's a fix.
This is not working. This is broken. There's nothing wrong with me. It's them. It's, and there's a lack of consciousness and they're just reacting all the time. And this is why there's fighting. Don't get me started on communication. I can sit and talk to you about, and if I explain to you how communication works, everybody comes to me afterwards and they go, how do we even speak to people? We are so, and this is why I'm saying again, in school, it's a small little sentence. We are not taught to think about our thinking. It's a huge topic.
Yeah.
And it's what it should be a number one necessary life skill. And when I try to bring it to school, to do it for 1 hour in primary school for year 5 and 6, and then in high school in different sort of formats, a little bit more complex as they grew older. Schools, there were certain very, very forward-thinking principles that let me come in and do that. But a lot of schools were, it's not the syllabus, it's not in the curriculum, we don't have the time. And I'm like, 1 hour. You don't have 1 hour to give to your kids that we can repeat this over their next, say, obviously not the whole 12, 13 years, but even like, say, 8 years of their lives. That every year we talk about this, that we might have 10, 20% more happy, driven, conscious kids that grow into adults. I work with adults and I worked a lot in the corporate world, and I would talk about what I consider basic. This is not even complex. It's like really basic for me. And people would like, wow. And I'm like, oh my God, how is it that we live today and people don't know? And psychology, because it only focuses on psychology, it's always, you can stay in therapy for 10 years and still be bleeding in your wounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
but I think as well, it's because people are taught to be constantly on that A game kind of thing, and they never ever switch off. And I think that's something that needs to be taught from an early age, even just to like have some quiet time. I mean, the difference I can see in the salon owners that I work with who just have some switch off time and now realize how important it is, even if it's just 5 minutes, just away from everything.
There is a myth that it's very time consuming. And it isn't. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do the whole journey on your own, you have to learn so much that can be quite complicated. You don't know where to start. It's a minefield. Personal development's a minefield. Where do I start? How long? But if you just do half an hour, 5 minutes of proper focused, bringing awareness and lowering your brainwave, you make huge changes to your body. Yeah. Huge. Because those people don't go off the treadmill, they're in high beta. Yeah. This is why it will take a disease, a crisis, a breakdown of something for them to go, I need to reevaluate my life. Yeah. And it's fine, but you don't have to wait for the crisis to happen before you start taking charge.
It's like some people wait for a wake-up call. But it's quite fascinating as well, and if I say to someone about, you need just to like take some time out, they'll look, I haven't got time. You haven't got time not to. It's just... I know.
And again, it's how, the energy that people work with. I remember working with a very, very senior manager in their team, and one of the things, she was like highly stressed, and I'm like, okay, if you're highly stressed, your team is stressed. So I just kind of said, how's your team doing? No, highly stressed. So I said, okay. I said, what time do your team go home? And they were going home like between 7 and 8. So I said, so they're staying 2 or 3 hours over 5 o'clock. Their contract is, get paid till 5. And she went like, yeah, but the work's got to be done. And, what can we do? What can we do? They have no time. We've got no time to do all the work. And I said, who's paying them for that extra 10, 15 hours a week each? Are they getting paid for that? And she says, oh, don't be ridiculous. Of course not.
Oh, wow.
I know. And this is not one person. This is like her and her team. Within 2 to 3 months, just by teaching them how to be still, how to be more proactive, how to prioritize themselves. It's interesting when you're very, very stressed and like things come into your email box and all that, as a business owner, as a senior leader, the tendency is I have to do all of this. But all you're doing is responding to somebody else's tasks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I always say to people, let's make your list before you even look at your emails. And they go, no, but I have to see my emails first. And I'm like, no. Your list for your successful day in your business, in your salon, in your, department. What is it that you think is your priority? And, what's the list? And then when you've done that, then you go and look at all these. And people are like, but what about my emails? I said, what about your emails? If you go, and I've asked people, if you go to a meeting and you are gone 9 till 12 and then only, that's okay.
I always find as well, quite often these things that seem really important, once you don't put that high priority on them, they start to sort themselves out and resolve themselves anyway. Yeah. So it's like...
and it comes back down to who are you trying to be, who are you trying to show to the world you are by doing that.
Yeah.
So you might have an idea that I've now taken the task, the ambition, the dream to have my own salon, and I've got to be successful. I can't fail, blah, blah, blah. So who again, it's whose expectations, whose dreams, whose belief systems about how things have to happen. And, there might even be a belief system in there or paradigm, very, very deep unconscious paradigm that I can't go away and just have fun on the med for 2 weeks because I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
And I should be there to be the example for my team, all that kind of stuff. It's so fascinating as to what's going on.
It's amazing though as well because it is all doable. I work with salon owners now who take 3 months off kind of thing. And it's like, and nothing happens kind of thing.
And because you can.
Like, you've
built your business to the point where you can do that. So if you start to, and people go like, where do I start? I said, awareness. Become aware of everything. And it's difficult because we forget. We go back unconscious and, all of that kind of things. But when you raise that awareness and you start to go, oh, I'm irritated. All right, what am I irritated about? Oh, I felt uncomfortable saying yes. Why is that? I didn't want to do it. I wanted to say no, and I did. Oh, so then you start to get to know yourself for the first time, because most people don't know who they are. And that's why they don't know what they want for their future. How can you know what you want for the future? You know what you said earlier. If you don't know who you are.
Yeah. And that's where it's putting some clarity around it. And that, I think, can be a little bit scary as well, kind of thing. So
it's scary, intimidating, all that kind of stuff.
So just to sum up, hacking our brains for success. If we could have just a couple of simple things that someone can put into their daily routine, where that would make such a difference to hack their brain for success, what would you say, Vicky?
Knowledge, awareness are vital. So you cannot fix what you don't know. There's things that are going on inside of you that you don't know they are. So you have to educate yourself to some extent. But at the very least is to raise your awareness. And I get people to start doing something really quite stupid for awareness. When you're in the shower, so this doesn't, but when you're in the shower, if you start to go, oh, look, I go to my left hand first, and then I go my right hand, and then I do my left ear. I don't know. We all have our unconscious way of doing it. So just say, oh, instead of my left, I'm going to do my right foot. And instead of...
and just make some change.
Shift it around. Start going back to doing things consciously, and start with the things that don't matter, because it doesn't matter if you get it a bit wrong in the shower, because you can always go back to what you know. Obviously you cannot make your coffee in reverse. Well, I suppose you could put the water and then you but when you start consciously living, and saying to yourself, right now I'm driving, right now I'm seeing this, right now I'm doing that, and you start talking to yourself about what is happening, obviously not to the point where people think you're crazy. You start to bring that awareness, so that when something starts to happen that is feeling uncomfortable, because your body is super, super smart, intelligent, wonderful, wonderful ally, if you let it. If you're doing something that is out of alignment with yourself, your purpose, your future, it feels uncomfortable. So if you're out of alignment, even with your belief system, so if your belief system says you should be submissive and not talk back, and then you go, you're going to feel guilty, you're going to feel remorse, I shouldn't have shouted. Become aware of that and just start to notice it. Start to notice it, because that is the beginning of discovering yourself. Like I said, I wrote the book, I Understand Me, because most of the people, I had to explain to them who they are, what they are, why they work the way they work, and all of that kind of stuff. Start to get them to become familiar, to start to then question, why is it that here I'm so confident and here I'm not? What's going on here? What's happening there? It's almost like you need to become the scientist and the curious kid about yourself. About, oh, look, I've just gone and had a chocolate. What? I'm just curious. It's not good or bad. But why did I go and have a chocolate? It's 3:00 in the afternoon. Did I have lunch? Did I not have lunch? Am I feeling uncomfortable? What's going on?
Yeah, because again, that's quite often just a comfort thing.
Oh, yeah. And it's also a huge dopamine release and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, naturally, food is going to make you feel good, because if it didn't, people wouldn't eat. And then as a species, we would die. So it will have to, when you're eating, it produce those, this is so great kind of hormones. And you get the serotonins. But when you've got enough, it cuts it off. So therefore, the first bite is delicious and the last bite is okay. But people, because we are unconscious, we don't know that.
Can we have another one then, please? Another thing someone can do in the daily.
So I would absolutely do on meditations. And in the beginning, we have not been taught to sit with ourselves. We're not taught to sit quietly. We start having a gazillion thoughts, and then we forgot to meditate. And then people feel like failures. And I would say it doesn't matter. Start maybe with 5 or 10 minutes. Start with a discipline. And every time you start thinking about what you're going to cook or who you're going to speak to next, and then you go, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating, and you come back to your nose, following your breath, that's the win. And you see how many wins you can have, because it's natural that in the beginning, when you've got an untrained and a chaotic, especially high beta, is that. I mean, this is why I've also created so many meditations, because I find in the beginning it's difficult to navigate it yourself. So it's easier to have a guided meditation.
Yeah, I think to start with it is, and I think so many people give up because they just think, I can't quiet my mind. But I think it is just, even just having those few minutes, just concentrating on your breath.
Those two things of concentrating on your breath and just going 5 minutes. 5 minutes for me, my breath, and softening your body. So we all know we're supposed to be relaxed or relaxing, and a lot of people go, I can't relax. But if I say to them, soften. It's something I learned from Richard Bandley. If I go, just soften your muscle, then they somehow know how to soften. If I say to them, be the ragdoll, and I'll even sometimes pick up their hand, and then they help me, and I'm going, a ragdoll wouldn't help me. A ragdoll would be like all floppy. Let your muscles be that soft and that relaxed for 5 minutes, and just focus on your breath. Breath in, breath out, breath. That's it. And if your mind wanders, the minute you go, oh, it wandered, yay, win, celebrate that, rather like, damn, I missed it. Those are the two things you can start. But it is a minefield. I would say go and do it with someone. Find someone good that gets you, that hears you, that can work with you. Because like I said, I've learned so many different things, because the one person would start with this and the other person would start with something completely different. Some people are very past focused, and I would have to start working with them from the past. But sometimes when I talk to people, the first thing they start telling me is about the future. So I start working there. It's work with someone. But awareness, breath. Yeah, every emotion has its own breath, by the way.
That's a whole new topic.
Emotions are a whole new topic.
Oh, Vicky, I know we could talk for hours and hours, and normally do.
Yes, we normally do.
But that has been amazing, and I think just having that level of understanding of like sort of how your brains work and how you can and influence it, and also the stages that you go through in your life. I just find it absolutely fascinating, and I think everyone's going to take so much away from this. So I'm so thankful for you to give your time for this. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they get in touch with you, Vicky?
Because of the different things that I do, I think the easiest way is to go onto my website, which is www.vickyross.com. There's contact, and through the contact you can send me a message.
Yeah.
But my website itself, it's got meditations, it's got the retreats, because I run retreats, it's got if you want to work with me. So all of that is on the website. But if all else fails and go, I don't know, I want to talk to you, if you just send me a message, I obviously do respond, and we get back to you, and then we have a chat.
Amazing. We'll put all this in the show notes as well.
The easiest way.
Yeah.
On my website, I've got things in there that they can look at, they can book, they can buy, they can...
Yeah, learn.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Learn. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Vicky. That has been awesome. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. It was wonderful again, as always, to be with you and to chat with you. So thank you for the invite.